Today we're going to talk about what is project management. And I've been in project management for 3 decades. I've managed about $2.5 billion worth of programs and spoken at a bunch of conferences. And I hear a lot of what is project management for people who aren't necessarily in the field. And I think the best way to think about it is that it's an epic road trip that you're going on. And so today I'm going to talk about that road trip, get into the metaphor, and then hopefully when you're done, you get a sense of what that means. And if you really want to do this as a career or a profession, or you're just interested in understanding it better, hopefully you'll achieve that by the end. And so to think about that metaphor, really every project is trying to get everyone in the same car, going to the same place at the same time without crashing it. The goal isn't just to arrive, it's to arrive together, on time, with minimal automotive as well as emotional breakdowns. And so there's really 10 elements to the metaphor that we're going to go through. And the first is the trip coordinator. That's the PM. They do the coordination, the planning, booking of hotels, and most of the time the driving of the car as well. You've got the destination, which is the goal that you're trying to get to, and the goal of the project. Then you've got the car, which are the resources that get you to your goal. You've got the passengers, who are the stakeholders, most of the time team members who are helping you get there or not. And then you've got the map, which is the plan to get to the destination. You also have the itinerary. So what's the scope? What are the stops along the way that you want to see? And then you've got changes to the plan, which inevitably happen. That's called scope creep. You've got your gas tank, which is the capacity of your resources, because there is limited capacity on every project. You've got road hazards that come up. Those are risks and issues. And then finally, you need breaks, bathroom breaks. That's your check-in. So to think about it, project management is the art of balancing the logistics, the personality, and all the unexpected detours. All right, let's get into it. So the trip coordinator is the person who organizes the journey, keeps everyone on track, and makes sure that the car doesn't end up in the ditch. Or in the case of the project, that's the PM. And so they do a bunch of things, right? They choose the route, they help build the plan, they set the milestones, they define the path. They check the weather to anticipate risks and prepare for contingency plans. So if it's snowy or icy out, maybe they have a shovel or some salt. They book the hotel and they pack the snacks, which are the resources and making sure that the team stays engaged. They keep the passengers informed and calm. Communication is one of the most important elements of project management. They monitor the fuel gauge, so they're the ones looking at it, making sure that we're not going to have any breakdowns, we have enough fuel to get where we need to go, or you've considered stops along the way and built that into your plan. They handle detour requests, so there are going to be scope changes, there's going to be construction, there's going to be things along the way, and they make sure, do we need to reroute or do we stay the course? They call or facilitate for bathroom breaks to keep the team aligned, and then they celebrate the arrival when we're done. So the PM has a really important role in making sure that all these next pieces sort of come together. That's how we started with them. So the destination is the place everyone thinks that they've agreed to go. And I say that they think it because when you're on projects, inevitably there's some changes, maybe there's lack of clarity. And so on a project perspective, that means having really clear objectives. So if the destination is vague, how do you know if you've arrived or not? Right? So if you say, let's go someplace fun, you might end up arguing about what someplace fun is. One person wants a circus, one person wants the movies, one person wants, to go see nature. So a good destination, just like a good project objective, is clear. We want to get to Yellowstone and we want to get there by Friday. And as mentioned, they need to be clear so everyone knows where they're going. I think it's also important to repeat the goals to make sure that everybody understands this is where we're going. And when somebody says, well, let's take a detour to Vegas, you say, well, it's kind of not along the way. And we all agreed that we would go to Yellowstone. The resources, the car, the metaphor is the car that you're driving, but from a project perspective, resources could be people, they could be financials, they could be tools, resources could be time. So there's a lot of different resources that help build out the project. And so think about it. You wouldn't take a road trip in a clown car with 5 people and no air conditioning. So you want to make sure that the resources match the journey. So if you're in a cross country trip, you want cruise control, lots of really good snacks, working brakes, maybe a good Pandora station on the radio. And you need to right source the resources for the journey. So if it is a long road trip, you probably don't want to do it by yourself. You might need another person to switch driving. You might need somebody to navigate. You might want somebody on the radio. But you also don't want to have too many people wedged in the car because it'll slow down and maybe you won't get there. So it really is about right sizing. And the PMs need to assess the vehicle before departure. Do we have the right horsepower to make it? Is the car tuned properly? Will the car get us there where we need? And that gets to making sure that you have all the right resources and that they're set up properly for the project to be successful. Then you've got the passengers, which is everyone in the car, also known as project stakeholders or project team members. And there's lots of different types of stakeholders, and you learn that quickly when you're on projects, right? And in the case of the car metaphor, you might have the backseat driver that's constantly telling you what to do. They're loud. They're, make this left here, don't go there, don't stop here, you're going too fast, you're going too slow. You've got the sleeper. These are my favorite people in the projects. They sleep the entire time, and then when it's done, they want the award for the team. Don't forget the DJ that changes the music priorities every 12 minutes, from rap music to the Metallica station to Christian rock. Don't forget the snack critic, right, who's focused on every little minor detail. And, while this is humorous, I will tell you there are absolutely different types of stakeholders on projects, and they're all different, and understanding their styles is so important. Communicating to them, setting expectations is really important. When is the next bathroom break? What is their role in the car? And I promise you, you're going to have really annoying stakeholders, maybe the one that sings too loudly off key, but they're in the car with you. You're all going on the project together. On most projects, you can't just sort of leave somebody at a rest stop and keep going. You generally need to take them with you. So you have to figure out how to manage stakeholders. Then you've got the map, which is the plan. That's the route you plan before leaving. From a project perspective, that's the schedule. And in the schedule, there's a couple of different things. There's key milestones, which are big achievements, and then there's dependencies, which is one activity is dependent on another. And the plan is the most important thing you have. I mean, think about it. We don't even think about it now because GPSs are built into our cars and our phones. But back in the day, if you didn't have a map, you were kind of hosed with how you were going to go, and it's the same way without having a project plan. So you don't just wing a 2,000-mile trip. You plan out the rest stops, the gas stations, scenic views. The more detailed the plan, the better the chances of success are. And then you think about the milestones, they're like cities that you pass through. So maybe, we talked about Yellowstone, maybe Jackson Hole is a milestone, or, something else along the way. And dependencies, think of sort of like bridges, right? I'm dependent on getting to the other side of the road on the bridge being there. Well, if it's closed, then you need to sort of reroute and figure out another way. And planning doesn't prevent bumps, but it does sort of prevent U-turns, right? So you have a plan, the plan will absolutely change, but you don't want to fully turn around and go back home. Then you've got the itinerary. That's the detailed plan of where you're going, what you want to do, when you'll do it, and that's the scope. And project scope's really important because that's the defined boundaries of what the project will deliver. As mentioned early on, there's a finite amount of capacity and resources and gas and snacks, and they run out quickly, and so you really have to be careful with making sure that you've defined the scope. So in this case, the itinerary tells you, right, hey, we're going to the Grand Canyon and Zion and Bryce, but it also tells you what you're not doing. So we're not going to go to Yosemite because that's in California and that's all the way out of the way. It sets the expectations, right? So if one of the team members thought we're stopping at every attraction, they'll be disappointed when you miss the world's largest ball of yarn, which, by the way, is a fantastic roadside attraction. And, sometimes it's your promise to the team. This is what we said we're going to do. Let's not add a detour. And a lot of times the PM or the driver has to tell people no because they get excited. And it defines the sanity, right? We don't want everything to be a quick stop and then the project takes forever and you never get to your destination. So while that's scope, there's always what's called scope creep, which is somebody wanting a shortcut or an extra feature or something that they didn't think about. And so inevitably on your project, someone will say, hey, let's take that scenic route and, point over there. And generally what happens is it's off-roading, it adds 3 hours, you get a flat tire, and you're in the middle of nowhere with no self-service. So the PM has to evaluate the shortcut and determine, is it really worth the time and the cost and maybe the emotional toll of sitting in the desert, with no water waiting for the tow truck to arrive. So every new idea should be evaluated, not just added. Then we have our gas tank, right? And the metaphor is, do we have enough fuel to get to where we need to go? But from a project perspective, that's budget, time, and energy, energy of resources. And that's the capacity of resources is really important. So you want to check the fuel gauge, make sure you have enough fuel to get through. As I mentioned, it's not just the car energy, it's human energy. And you don't want people to get burnt out on projects, especially really long projects where there's a lot of hours. You really have to make sure that you're pacing the team members. And budget is not just money. Yeah, it's capacity. So you want to make sure that you have the right stamina. And you want to make sure you understand when low fuel light comes on so that you're monitoring your capacity and before you realize you're not going to make it to the next gas station. Because there's not really a solution on a project where you have to get out and push the car the rest of the way. Right? So from a project perspective, that's really bad. Now, there will be road hazards. Just like on a road trip, there's construction, there's traffic jams, there's weather. And from a project perspective, that's about knowing what the risks are and unexpected problems. And so in this case, in projects, there's really two types of things. There's a risk, which is the chance of something happening, and then there's an issue is when it actually becomes a problem. On projects, as with road trips, you have to assume something will go wrong. There will be traffic, you will hit potholes, who knows, you might even hit a deer or a moose, especially if you're going to Yellowstone. And planning for these setbacks makes it faster. So having a spare tire is a really good idea. Actually, in my car, I have one of those air pumps that inflates the tires. I can't tell you the number of times that I've actually had to use it, especially in New England winters when you get the low pressure warning. So risk management, again, to really sort of drill home the point, is about yelling pothole before you hit it, not after. But if you do hit it, and now you have a broken axle or a tire, that's when you have an issue because now it's no longer a risk of it happening. It actually happened, and now you're kind of hosed. So bathroom breaks are really important on road trips. It's important. You don't want chaos, which could be an accident in the car or somebody, getting jaundice from holding it in too long. From a project perspective, that's stand-ups and reviews and checkpoints. And it's important to have those short, frequent stops and to sort of step back and look on your project to understand where is the team at and how are we progressing towards our goal, because you don't want key team members to jump out of the car, especially while it's moving. And so it really keeps the project going. It prevents resentment from building, because I tell you, not checking in with people, they feel cranky if they've been ignored, right? If they listen to too much country music over and over and over again, and if they're ready to change it, then you lose them. So you want to make sure that you're engaging people and you're checking in with them. And then finally, when all those things happen, you get to the end and you finally arrive at the destination. This is what all of us project managers live for, is the joy that we have for the few days while we finish something before we jump on the next one. And so it's important to celebrate the arrival, capturing lessons learned. Hey, what should we have done differently? You want to thank your passengers regardless of how loud they yelled or how annoying they were, because they are part of the team. And then the best part is, after all the roadblocks and bumps and so on, inevitably everybody's going to tell you how easy it was, and you just sort of stare out the window and say, yeah, thinking about all the things that you did to make it successful. And that's generally the role of a PM, is everybody points out how easy it is, but nobody can sort of appreciate what it takes to get there, because you're the one that sort of steered everybody. So look, let's summarize this all up, and hopefully this was helpful for you. So project management is not just about driving the car. It's navigating personalities, it's expectations, it's the terrain, it's reacting to what happens on the road, and being important with scope, right? If it's not on the itinerary, it's not happening. Unplanned stops, those are your risks, are going to cost the project. And it's important to know when to accelerate, when to brake, and when to pull over for ice cream. And that's the value of of the PM. And so project management is really the difference between a chaotic road trip and a legendary adventure. I love this AI generated picture because I'm not really sure where the hands are coming from for the plans and objectives, but it was a successful completion. Let me know what you think about this metaphor. I'm sure there's other parts that I forgot. Throw them in the chat. Feel free to subscribe if you like my content. And thanks for watching today.